All right, what's up, YouTube? Biz Matthew here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we have an interview with Joel, and he's going to talk about how him and his partner have been wholesaling properties and also give different advice for you all, especially if you're starting out wholesaling, what you all can do in order to get that first deal or consistently getting deals. So make sure you all like this video, subscribe, and I'll put all their contact information, their socials down below. So please be sure to support them. So just to start off with, Joel, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. First and foremost, I gotta say thank God for you allowing me to speak to your platform. And like I said, from the very beginning, you were very inspirational for being transparent and just documenting the journey. So because I saw you were the very first person I saw doing wholesaling that I could relate to that was doing it full time. And I was like, okay, that seems possible. So again, thank you again for letting me speak to your audience on my journey, wholesale fire damage houses.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, I appreciate those kind words. And yeah, that was the goal. Like when I started, and it's crazy to hear it from people like, hey, this is what you did and this is how you helped me. So I
Yep.
appreciate that. So yeah, just to start off with, I want to talk about how you got started with wholesaling. Like, how'd you learn about wholesaling? How'd you get introduced to wholesaling? What were you doing before everything?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I had a friend. So I'm working a full-time job, still at the same job. I work on Wall Street. Um, and I had a friend who left. He actually got me introduced to this company on Wall Street and said, you should apply. I think you'll get the job. He got a job. I got a job. We're best friends and everything. And he said he was leaving one day to do wholesaling full time. At the time, I was like, he quickly, briefly mentioned it to me. And I was like, that sounds like scammy. I'm not interested in all that. 3 years later, he's still doing it, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I start looking on YouTube wholesaling, and I saw all these young guys, including you, doing it full time, and I'm like, huh. And so the more I look into it, it just seems so interesting because at the time I'm commuting to work 2 hours, 2 hours one way. It was a lot at the time. It's still a lot now, but I was just like studying, doing marketing. I had a marketing agency at the time, and I just started to dread client work, right?
Mhm.
So at my job, same thing. We provide work for our clients, and I really started not liking the feeling of having a boss over you. Every couple of days, you have to give an update if marketing performance isn't good, which is out of your control. You have someone breathing over your neck because they paid you. So I saw wholesaling as a way like you're serving this client, the seller, for 30 days because you have this contract for 30 days in the hopes that you find a buyer. Um, and it just intrigued me that you can make this amount of money, make a living by yourself. And I noticed you doing that. And I was like, I just went down this rabbit hole, study for about a month. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to sell this marketing agency, everything I was doing, I'm going all in on wholesaling. So I sold the marketing agency at a loss because I
Mm.
knew I just couldn't stand client work anymore. But I was like, I'll use that money 100% for wholesaling. And at the time, that was the most money we ever seen. It was about 20 grand. So I was able to start that and I built a brand. I wasn't doing fire damage just yet. I was just doing everything I saw. So I was doing like shotgun approach, every niche. My first lead was fire damage. I made no money. And I was like, I'll never do a fire damage property again. Even though I wanted to help the seller, that deal, like, it was very hard to find a buyer, but I was committed to finding a buyer for the property. And we found the buyer on Christmas Day for the seller and made no money. And then I had a subject to property, made no money because I didn't know what I was doing. But I did another fire damage deal and I made some money. And this was 6 months into the journey. So 20 grand invested. I haven't made no money. I made 6 grand. I was still negative. And what I think most people need to understand is you might feel like you want to quit. You're probably going to feel like you want to quit because the daily grind, it's all in here. and it gets really hard. But I was like, I was watching your channel for inspiration because not every day did you have a deal. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And not every day, like you found a buyer in like a week for your property. So I really use you for inspiration. Like kind of felt like you were with me. Like, okay, keep going. He's doing it. He's still going. So I'm gonna keep going. And so first 6 months of the year, I was still negative on the investment. I invested 20,000 in marketing because I come from a marketing background. So I built a website. I do
And what year
SEO.
was this?
This was I'm in my second year. So this was 2022. Yeah, 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is
Yeah.
recent. Okay.
Yeah. So 6 months, I was still low on my investment, but the last 6 months of the year was when I made all the money. So most people quit when it gets really hard in the beginning. At least that's what I see. They don't stick it through a whole year because they see the YouTube guys making this big check in 30 days. That's possible, but that's not what I think people should expect.
Hmm.
So I made about quarter mil, 250,000 the last 6 months of the year, which is kind of crazy. If I had
Oh, wow.
quit, I would have never seen this opportunity. So, um, and that 250,000 was all from fire damage
Damage.
deals I got.
This
So
is in
I real
2022.
yeah,
Okay.
2022.
Okay.
And when I realized like I can speak to fire damage victims because I really care about people, that's just my nature. I like to serve people in a way that makes them feel comfortable to let me put their house under contract and find a buyer for it. It just changed everything. So I niched down, I focused on fire damage. Every other lead type, I outsourced it to some other wholesaler. I just gave it to them. I didn't want anything to do with it because I didn't want to be distracted. I got to stay focused, guys.
Okay.
But that was
Okay.
2022. I'll get into
All right.
23 if you have
Yeah,
any other.
yeah, yeah. No, no, you shared a lot of different nuggets that I just want to highlight for
Yeah.
sure. But just going back to your beginning stages, I think it's important to highlight that, you were in a job, you were working a business that, wasn't really serving you, or doing a business that you felt like you could have done something else, right? You
Yeah.
could have went to another business, serve your clients in a better way or a better manner, and that led you to real estate. I think
Right.
it's important that you even took a loss on your business in order to
Yeah.
start a new business, because I think a lot of
Yeah.
people they shy away from taking an L, and so
Yep.
I think it's important to recognize, just highlight, sometimes you have to take an L in order
Right.
to go on to your next step.
Right.
Um, and I just want to go to the beginning stages, talking about that first deal where you actually made money, like I
Yep.
know the first two deals or whatever deals you said you made no money, right?
Yeah.
That can be discouraging for a lot of beginners,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then, but you kept on pushing on. And then
Right.
just going to that first deal, let's just break that down a little bit, that you
Okay.
made 6K, because we have a lot of beginners here on this
Yeah.
channel. And so I just want to share with them how you got that first deal where you actually made money. Like, just walk us through the process. What was
Okay.
the lead source? How
Right.
did you market it? The negotiations, the price, and things of that nature.
So one thing I will say is let's talk about the deal I made no money, the very first deal
Yeah,
I
yeah, okay.
ever got, because that one was the deal. Like it was, I don't know what it was. It was not about the money. I was so happy. I was like, I told this lady, I will not let you down. We will buy this property. And the crazy thing is, I made no money. The title company wasn't helpful, even though they were investor friendly. They didn't guide me on like who signs, get a notary out there, all this stuff I know now. They did not guide me on that, but I figured it out and I got it done. And after the fact, like forget the money, I was like, this lady has no idea who I am. The way I found the lead was through SEO. So I started a marketing agency. I do search engine optimization, so ranking number one on Google. So if someone searches for your service or your product and you're on the first page or at the very top, you're likely to get that person to come and view your page. And if your page resonates with what they're looking for, they'll opt in. So she opted in saying, "Hey, I want to sell my fire damage house." It was in Indiana, but she was located in a different state. It was a rental property, but it caught fire, and she said pretty much I actually locked it up. I had to renegotiate because again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I really just wanted to do my first deal to learn and fail forward. And that's what I stand by. You gotta just do it, fail forward. And so the way we marketed it after I got the contract is I had a buddy and I was in a Facebook group, and there was someone who said, "Oh, I got buyers in Indiana. I'll do all the dispo." I let her do a dispo. 3 weeks go by, and she said, I asked her, I said, "You haven't found a buyer in 3 weeks?" She said, "No." I said, "How many days have you been actually marketing this?" She said, "About 2 days." That's when I learned, okay, wholesalers, you got to be careful because they'll tie up your contract and not put in the work after you worked your butt off to get that contract, right? So we try to work, like we always vet wholesalers. Like wholesalers aren't bad. I wouldn't categorize it as that, but you gotta vet people, like if they're willing to put in the work, in the grind. So I was like, you know what? I gotta take this in my own hands and do the acquisitions, which I did, and do the disposition. So I went on Facebook Marketplace. That's how I found my buyer. And ironically, the buyer was a neighbor who was down the street. He said his eyes were on this property for years. He could not get a hold of the seller. He's been calling her, sending mail to the property, nothing. So it's very interesting how like real estate works, because you could cold call, you could text. If you don't get the seller, it doesn't mean they're not interested in selling their property for whatever reason. But she found the means to find my site, opt in, and I found the buyer who was interested in the property. And this was like, I had to extend the contract, I had to renegotiate the price. I had all these pitfalls that I was like, I'm not going to make money. Why don't I just cancel? But it's not about that. I want to help people, right? So even if I'm not going to make money, I've disposed many deals. I don't make money, but I'm happy I actually helped the seller out of a situation where they don't know how to rehab the house. They don't know how to hire contractors. They don't know how to deal with the city with code violations or fire damage. So um, the buyer did. And we renegotiated everything. We paid off her taxes. And she was crying on the phone, like in joy. Didn't know what to say. Couldn't believe there are people that want to buy these distressed homes. So that proof of concept was like, I'm all in.
Right.
And I wasn't all in on fire damage, but I was all in this space. Like, wow, I can actually help people and make money in between. I didn't make money, but I know I can because I saw you do it. I saw you
Right,
do it.
right. Exactly. And what happened, I guess, with the I guess the price, because it seemed like this buyer was pretty interested. Was it just that, you negotiated a little bit too high on the price, or
So
what?
she had back taxes.
Oh, the back
So
taxes.
to
Okay.
yeah, so to close on the property, all that stuff has to be cleared from title.
Right.
Um, which the back taxes usually reside on Schedule C of the title, which shows any issues that will prevent you from closing. And because the back taxes were so much, the back taxes were about 20 grand. Indiana doesn't have too many, like,
Oh, wow.
the market's not too high there. It's almost like in Ohio. So it just made the property upside down. And because
Hmm.
of fire damage, my assignment was going to be about 10K.
Hmm.
So I had to forfeit that because no one was going to overpay for a fire damage house that need to be torn down. So
Mm.
um, so that's
Okay.
what prevented it. And I sacrificed my assignment for that.
Okay.
And I talked to the buyer because he was about to back out. I begged him to buy this deal. I said, I'll do anything. And ultimately, the seller, I think she only walked away with like $400. She walked away with something very, very small, but she was happy to get out of the situation.
Okay. And sometimes that's all a seller wants,
Yep.
just to get out of the situation. They're not necessarily looking for a price, but just get out of just the hardship they're going through, the
Right.
distress.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it's great that your buyer just stepped in and just paid off all the taxes
Yep.
and things of that nature. But like you said, that proof of concept is really important. The other question I have, just hearing your story is, there's a lot of people that are working full-time jobs and whatnot. How are you able, especially in the beginning, to balance working a full-time job
Yeah.
and doing wholesaling?
So in 2022, I think COVID was still like prevalent at the time. So
Okay.
I was remote, I was at home.
Okay.
But when we had to come back to office, what I would do is because I have this long commute, I was able to, I mean, it wasn't easy. I had to really work on my time management. like on a next level, on an uncomfortable level, because I'm not someone that like is super organized. But it's like, how bad do you want this? Like you have to get organized. You have to do tasks that drive you closer to a deal, drive you closer to the money, right? So I made sure on this train ride, I would use my hotspot, laptop. I would just list out all the like SEO stuff, marketing stuff I have to do, right? Because every marketing channel works. I want to say one thing. So it's not like SEO is the gold mine, because people cold call and they'll, like what you did with, you had a fire damage property. You went right on Facebook and you found the seller. I know it took some time to get a hold of him, but he responded to you. He
Mhm.
wasn't looking on Google for someone else. He responded to you because you were there ready as soon as he was ready for his problem to be solved, right? So I was doing all the marketing on the train, do my full-time job on the train ride back. It's about 2 hours. Again, back to the task, like squeeze it in, because I really want to be intentional with my family, right? So I have 3 young kids. I want to be present. I want to be there. So it was hard. The first like year was tough.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, I'm coming home, but I still have more work to do. And I had to sacrifice sleep. You gotta sacrifice something. So I chose to sacrifice my sleep, to get it all done the first year.
Okay, no, no, that's some good advice. Like, yeah, it does take sacrifice, especially if you have that full-time job. But maybe that 2 hour commute was a blessing in disguise, where
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
actually used it to build a business
Build.
because
Yep,
it's
exactly.
2 hours there and then 2 hours coming back, right?
Right,
So it's
exactly.
4 hours total a day, which is a good amount of time that you can work
It
on something.
exactly.
And so, yeah. And but by the way, what do you do as a full? I know you said Wall Street, but
Yeah.
what's your job?
So I work for Chase, JP Morgan Chase, as a business analyst. I used to be a software engineer,
Okay,
software engineer by trade. So I went to school for software engineering.
okay,
Yeah, business analyst. So that's also a grind.
okay.
They they want a lot out of you, and it's one of the top Wall Street banks. So I guess the point of me saying that is, like, you have to come to a place where you make no excuse for your situation, for yourself, because there are young kids doing it, there are older people doing it, and everyone in between, no matter what circumstance, they just like stay focused until you get the deal. So
Hmm.
yeah.
No, no, that's a good point. Yeah, and I was just curious, and I know a lot of audience, people will be curious because, some people do have like high stress jobs,
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out how to do something on the side,
Right.
to eventually leave those high stress jobs.
Right.
And I know currently you're still working in
Right.
your job, and at least for 2022, we'll get to 2023 later, but
Yeah.
you know why is it that you are still working a full-time job even though you have success in this business?
Right. So I will say, like, someone like myself, like, before wholesaling, I was homeless. I was
Mm,
in college. I had a baby on the way with my current wife. We weren't married at the time, and it was really hard. I didn't really have direction, because my father wasn't around, and I didn't know what to do. But I knew, like, after praying about it, I had to be there. I had to focus, figure it out, and pay the price. And I want everyone to understand, like, your sins, I'll say, because you know what sins are. There's a price to pay for everything. So
mm,
if you're gonna, let's say you're in college and you're hearing this and you want to start a business or wholesaling, it's the best time to start. But if you choose to go to the bars at night and the parties at night when you really could be building your business to get ahead once you're done with college, you're going to pay a price for that in the
mm,
future, because now you're a year behind, or you just pay over time, more responsibilities and all that pressure. So all the pressure I went through before getting into this, I'm so used to. So the pressure of my job and time management, it keeps me really, really focused, to focus on money generating task.
mm,
So now as I'm scaling, I'm focusing on systems that are efficient. So I know I could do this like full time, but the job pressure and the 2 hour commute, waking up early, it's that pain that really helps me, like, how far can I push myself to do
mhm,
this?
mhm.
So I I know it's a good question. I asked myself too, why am I getting up so early to go? Like, I could do this full time, but I think there's more of a like a deeper story of like, I could say to someone else that looks at me and like, oh, you're so successful, you're rich, this or that, which I'm not, because $1 million today is not what it once was. Um, my what I would say to them is like, what's your excuse? Like, I have all
Mm,
this going on and I'm still like doing my best, and it's not easy, but like I know if I just keep at it, I don't know, real estate just seems like if you real estate's the one industry that I've noticed if you just stay consistent, even if it takes 2 years to get your first deal, like you're bound to be successful. You're just
mm,
bound to do it. Just stay
mm.
focused.
No, yeah, yeah, and that's a good point. I think by you still working a 9 to 5 job, like you're saying, I mean, you can use that as, people can look up to you as inspiration.
Right.
And so yeah, that's a good point. And another question I had is you said a friend introduced you to wholesaling. Is that friend your current partner or you have
No.
okay, okay, just that okay. And
Yeah.
so when did you start off with a partner? And in 2022, did you have a partner or how did
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It was interesting. I had like two partners. Like we're all like, yeah, we're gonna do wholesaling together. But I remember there were a lot of sleepless nights, and I'm like, where are you? Uh,
Mm,
like like I got all this going on. I know you got your personal life, but I'm staying up late. I'm waking up super early. I'm getting literally no sleep. I would stay up till 2 a.m. and then I'll get up for 4. My wife is like, that's not good for you. You can't be doing that. I said, no, you don't understand. If I sacrifice now, a year, 2 years from now, I won't have to do that anymore. So I don't do that anymore. I go to sleep early now because I built the systems. Like I sacrificed. Now I like I train and outsource a lot. But I had two partners at the time. The first deal we did, I let my partner dispo it. That also went south, so I took it over. And then my other partner, we were doing like we had another deal, tried dispo it together. We made no money together. The next deal was fire damage, so I had both partners on this fire damage deal, and
that's the one you made 6 grand from, or was
yeah,
that
correct,
okay?
correct, yep. And one of the partners, he was like, there's too much headache and fire damage, so I'm not doing this anymore. So he went his way, but we stayed really good friends. And then my other partner at the time, uh, I told him like, okay, I have the leads. I need to create a system. If we're gonna do this, I want you to work for me, not with me, for me, because I have this vision. I want to go all in on fire damage. And if you want to like work with me, make money, build your own business, you can. But none of this like 50-50, and then you don't put in the 50% work that
Mm,
you're expected to, So today he works with me, and he's the head of disposition for all the fire damage deals, and he's really good at that. So eventually I'm going to have him on the channel and start like training and coaching people on how to dispo fire damage deals properly.
okay. No, yeah, I think that's important what you said, just because I think a lot of people go into partnerships not knowing what they're really getting into. And so, just learning that,
Yeah.
sometimes personalities, people have different visions, you may have a partner one year and then a different partner next year. But yeah, I
Can
think it's
can
just
I say
good
something?
that people,
Can I
yeah,
add
yeah,
to that? So
yeah.
before all that, regarding partnerships, I was starting all these media companies, social media, digital marketing agencies with buddies from college. Oh my gosh, never again will I do partnerships because like if your values really don't align, like I started, I was the only one at the time who had a baby on the way. So I couldn't attend those meetings at another college to meet with clients. I couldn't because I'm like, I haven't seen my daughter all week. I have to be with my family. So a lot of partnerships, every single partnership just failed. And I
Mm,
realized like, okay, sometimes it's not the person that's bad, it's two different visions and two different work ethics. But if I'm in charge with my work ethic, I know I'll set everyone up below me to succeed, to win
mm.
in a way I see like they fit in that like kind of fits their lifestyle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, no, that's an important, aspect of it because yeah, you may think you may want a partnership, but in reality,
Uh,
you just want your own business
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
people to work alongside you.
Right, right.
Um, and so the person who's in charge of Dispo, is he the person on the Instagram?
No, 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 no. That's acquisition. So he's in charge of acquisition. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Uh,
Lewis.
okay, Lewis. Okay,
Yeah. So
gotcha.
he's all over the channel. So he's the main reason I can keep going, working full time. Like at some point you can't do this alone. Depends how like,
Right.
where we're at now with revenue wise and
Right.
lead volume. I can't answer these calls. I have to be at my job. So he's the one that does all that, closes the deals, and he'll be training on acquisitions as well.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, and then let's start talking about, so you got that 6 grand wholesale deal, and then towards the end of the year, 2022, you ended up doing 250,000. So
Yeah.
what really made that jump? What was it that made you, you know, lose out on 2 deals, sub 2 deal, only made 6 grand, and then uh projected you to 250,000? What do you think really changed?
So SEO, and that's how SEO works, right? When you build something online like an asset, a website is an asset. People will pay a crazy amount of money for a website, a domain. Forget the website; they'll pay a lot of money just for the name, just the brand, right? So I know if I because I come from this background, I know if you keep going, most others will quit. They'll stop paying their agency because they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm not seeing like your value here. It's taking too long. Six months in, no leads." I mean, some agencies suck and they're just making you pay for garbage. But what I will say is because I come from a marketing background, I do my own marketing. And so I know myself, I'm going to stay up late to beat my competitors, right? Because they're paying an agency. The agency is only going to do the amount of work you paid them for. But
Mm,
me, because this is my business, I will get no sleep. I'll be relentless. Like I will study, 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 study new stuff, implement at scale, and then I see what works, and then I just go deep, right? So that's what made the jump because I know I was investing 20K. Any money I made 6 grand. I reinvested all of it. And so my wife is like, where's the money? You said you're wholesaling and you're gonna make this money back in 6 months. I was like, okay, well, it's gonna take time because what I'm doing, I know it works because I've done it many times before. So yeah, after 6 months, Google starts to recognize the brand, and then they start to put you on the top of the page for certain keywords. And so now when people search like sell fire damage house, they see my site as top three, and they see the brand. Oh, they buy fire damage houses. Then more people start to opt in, and later in the year, it's very interesting. You don't know who's going to come to your site and who will resonate with you. Yeah, they're getting other offers because they fill out form. It takes like 2 seconds. They go fill out another form, but it's about like when you talk to them on the phone. If you show them you care, that's how I've won these deals, these contracts, these sellers business. Because I talk to them about like them before I talk
mm.
about the house. Like how are you like doing? Is your family okay? How are your kids? And it's always work. So I make it more about the person and then the house after.
Okay, no, that's important, just to concentrate on the person more than like the numbers, the deal, the property and whatnot. But yeah, I always been intrigued with PPC, all of that and
Yep.
how that works. And I know like people like you are doing that and they're making good money. But like you said, like so many different types of marketing techniques can work for you
Yeah.
and your business and what you're looking for.
I will
Um,
say on that though, it is way more expensive than cold calling. It
mhm,
is way more expensive than texting.
right.
But because I have this full-time job and I wasn't in a place to train VAs on how to talk and the language barrier and this and that. I just wanted people to come to me. I want them to raise their hand. So my website does all the vetting, 20 questions they have to fill out. So I know the details going in. I know they've already like said yes, I want to sell. So now I just need the second yes, like I want to sell. And there's some books and quotes on like the 3 yeses in sales. If you get those yeses, they're more likely to go with you. So that's why I went the expensive route and the long-term play, because most people go right into cold calling because they want the results. But this teaches you like patience, like stay focused, it's gonna come.
Right. And I mean, like you said, you were doing the PPC for months before you really hit,
Oh yeah.
that number of 250,000. So like every day you're spending money on Google Ads,
So, so 2023 was when I started spending money on Google Ads. This was just SEO. So I'm
Oh,
building
SEO
Google Ads.
before. Okay.
Right,
2022 is SEO. Okay.
right, right.
Okay. And
So
so,
PPC is above the SEO. So like, I lost a lot of deals because everyone else doing PPC, they would go right to them and they'll leave it at that. So I
right,
had to wait for like the low hanging fruit, the people that didn't want to click on the ads. So it was a waiting game, but I know people are on Google. So that's
right,
why I
right.
kept at it.
Okay. And just to get this clear, so just so I can understand it more. So in 2022, you're mostly doing SEO, which is just optimizing your website so it can rank higher on Google.
That's
So
it.
it doesn't take much money, I guess, to do
No, no,
that.
no. It
It's
takes
still
a lot because
a
you
lot of
got
money still.
you got
Okay.
big competitors in the space today.
Right.
Like now, everyone's the guys. I know the guys who are there. I've done work with them in the past, but all these guys are really smart in SEO. And that's why it takes a lot of money because they're doing like advanced stuff that require
Mm,
money. And for you to
mm,
beat them, you have to put in money as well towards that advanced stuff. So you have to be on the
mm.
same knowledge level and same budget level to beat them. If that
Okay.
makes
Okay. Yeah, 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 for sure. Okay. And then you say you started with PPC towards the end of 2022 or
Yep.
2023?
So beginning of 2023, I started with PPC. I added
Okay.
it.
Okay. And so, you have this, success in 2022 with 250,000, and then 2023, how did it shape up for you? You started at PPC,
Yep.
and what happened?
So 2023 started like no deals. It was dry. It
Oh,
was dry,
wow.
right? So I'm still investing everything I've done, everything I've made in 2022. I've invested majority of it. Like I only took home maybe like 10%, 20%. Um, and I invested it, no leads. Some leads were just really horrible. So no deals up until March. And then everything's like steamrolling, like really good deals. So I hit a couple of 6-figure months, but then from May till August, nothing,
Dries up.
nothing.
Wow.
And I'm
Dang.
I'm freaking out because I brought Lewis on he's on the Instagram on the channel as well. I brought him on and I'm like, he's working full time. I got no leads. Now I'm like stressed. I'm like, oh my gosh. You get in your head. I'm getting in my head like maybe this isn't the right way to do things. But I have to always ground myself and like it's a game of patience. If you keep at it, you're gonna win. If you keep at it, you're gonna win. You only lose if you quit, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
even with, let's say I stop marketing, I stop putting any more money into the websites because I put money into websites in the past, eventually a lead will come in because it's an asset. It's still there. Google has these updates that shake everything up. So sometimes they'll put this website you're not doing anything on anymore on the top, and then you have leads coming in still. So that's why I like it. So 5 months, nothing in 2023, but the other months are really, really big months of like really good deals, all fire damage. The marketing channels are SEO and PPC. And I'm really starting to build out a team
mm.
to do this while I'm at my full-time job.
Okay, interesting. And so, um, you're doing this nationwide, right?
Nationwide. Yep.
Okay. Is there you don't have to say the best markets, but is there like a part of this country where you're seeing the most deals or
Um,
anything like that?
so wherever there's like dense population, there's always going to be more deals, um,
Hmm.
and that's what I've noticed. So like the big states like Texas, Florida, California, big states, you'll see a lot of deals. But I will say you don't want to chase what like people are doing. It's going to
Right.
cost you more. It's going to be more competitive. So these smaller states, it's like an open sea. Like these sellers will come in, you're competing with less people. Um, if the values are good, there's deals to be done there too. So I haven't seen like one good area where there's like a flood of volume. It's
Right.
spread.
Okay.
I really like the smaller states because there's just less competition. I don't know about
Competition.
you guys, but I like to. I don't want to compete with all these investors, and the seller puts it into a bidding war, and then now your wholesale fee is like shrunk down,
Yeah.
and then like you're in this to make big money on as many deals as possible.
Right. Okay. And so 2023, first few months didn't get any deals. Then, like you said, March, April, you're hitting six figures.
Oh yeah,
And then it took like another like couple months to
yeah,
get back. So
right.
um six figures in a month, for 2023, just to start off with. I mean, that's really great money. What do you think helped you cross that six-figure mark in a month during that time?
Um, Again, it's like it has to do with the caring. Like when I remember talking to the sellers, which resulted in those deals. Um, just like the seller's like son is talking to me, and I'm like, listen, I'm gonna do everything I can to win your business and resolve any issues with the property. I'll move at your guys' pace, okay? And I see that you're not on title, but your parents, can you add your mom to the call? And so we do a three-way call, and now it's like this older lady on the phone, so I'm very like patient, and I make sure, are you sure you want to sell? So
Mhm.
that like, you guys could rehab this and get it back to marketable, blah, 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 whatever. And I try to make sure that they like, it's a, the buddy I worked with when I first started, he always told me, he said, you're really good at this like push pull technique that makes someone feel like not pressure to take an action, but then they really want to work with you. So I don't know what it is. I'm not like purposely doing that. It's just my nature to make sure these sellers want to do what they're saying they want to do.
Hmm.
Because of that, they give me these really good deals. And that's really what it is, just the consistent marketing. And when you get on those acquisitions calls, you really just show them that you care more about the house, oh, more about them than the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. No, it makes sense. Okay. No, that's really good advice because yeah, I know that, when I talk more with sellers, yes, you have to create, yes, you show that you're interested, but you also have to create interest that they are interested in you and they're kind of coming
Yep,
after you too.
yep.
Um, but yeah, that's great advice. And so now I just want to break down one of your deals.
Okay.
Let's say a recent one, uh, a nice size deal, okay?
Okay.
And so I'm
All
just
right.
gonna ask you some questions.
For
And you
sure.
can just answer them. So first off, where is this deal located?
Washington.
Washington State.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is particular city?
Seattle Metro.
Okay. And then what was the motivation behind the seller wanting to sell?
So the neighbor was the one that opted in our site. She
Okay.
said, I was searching around, and I'm pretty sure she only, because our brand is fire cash buyers, it resonates with people off the bat. So they're more likely to come to us. And that's why we truly believe in niching down into like creating a brand. So she came to us and saying, okay, my neighbor down the street, his house caught fire, and I've convinced him to sell it. We're like, oh, okay. The seller would not talk to us for months. It was the neighbor, and I'm like, okay, they're playing games. They won't bite on our offer. I actually sent one of these buyers, one of the buyers I met on another transaction. I made no money. It was in Washington also, but I wanted to create a relationship with them because he's really business mind and all these other business ventures he's doing. I thought he was really interesting. I said, okay, go to this property and see if you're interested. At least if they're not biting on my number, tell me where you're going to be at. I usually don't wholesale like that. We usually lock it up and we grind to find a buyer. I know some people want to do it the other way around, and that's fine too. So the buyer went out there and he said, this is not only a drug house, this is a hoarder house. It's fire damage. The seller is tweaking, and his girlfriend is also tweaking. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
this sounds like a mess. And then the buyer says, this is going to be a lot of work. I need to be at 200K. So this was a deal we recently showed on the channel we've done. So he's like, I need to be, I actually need to be at 150, not 200. The property is worth about 425, 465. And he's like, I need to be way down here because the rehab is expensive. And I'm like, I told him the seller, he won't even talk to us. Like, he's not going to bite at that number because he keeps telling us he wants 250. And then he says 200. He's like, I'm not going lower. So they disappear for like a month, right? 2 months. They disappear for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Guys, keep this in mind. Wholesaling, it's not like always, it's rarely straightforward. Like, hey, I want to sell, take my house. It's not
Right,
like that.
right,
It's
exactly.
like you have to like keep emotions at bay, right? And just like stay focused, work on other stuff. And these sellers, they have distressed properties and it's not going away. So they have to sell at some point. So 2 months later, they come back and I see it and I'm like, Lewis, okay, they're playing games. I don't want you wasting your time on that seller anymore. Tell them if they don't take this number, 130. Now I'm going way lower. I don't care. I'm going deep. If you don't take 130 today, tomorrow is going to be 110 and it's going to keep going down 10K each day because you texted us again and you're playing games. You're kind of wasting our time. So Lewis, he says, my manager said it's 130 today. And if you don't sign today, it's 110 tomorrow. And then we're not interested anymore. That's what he said. And I like that play because it shows them like we need to deploy this capital. Like we're business. We don't have time to play this game of like rabbit, cat, whatever. So he set the contract and they signed it so fast. And I was like, what? I was so confused because I wasn't expecting anything from this deal. And they signed it so quickly. And I was the one who was holding up the signature. And I was like, I'm so confused what's happening. But I realized this is real estate. Like people, just because they're not ready to sell at this point in time, at this point in time, life may have changed. And we discovered that they're living in this fire damage house. They're living in it.
Oh,
The
wow.
toilet backed up. So now there's poop all over the house. And they
Mm.
say nothing about it. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, what is wrong with you guys? And then long story short, the seller's girlfriend is like, okay, I noticed that the neighbor is like she's too involved in this. You guys do not talk to her anymore. And if you deal with her, we're not doing this transaction anymore. And I'm like, who? She's the girlfriend. She's not on title. And the seller is still like really not trying to talk to us. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, she's very controlling. And we were like, ah, crap. Okay, fine. We had to cut out the neighbor, which was sad at the time because she brought the deal. And then we moved forward, we closed on the property, and then they sit there. And the only reason we closed on it is because the seller's girlfriend would not let our buyers walk the property. They took away the lockbox so we couldn't get in anymore. We're like, what is like it makes no sense. And we're calling them and they're ghosting. We blow them up. All the seller, the seller's girlfriend,
So you
even the
purchased it for 130.
130. Yeah,
How did you fund it?
hard money. So I put down 25%
And
from
you
other
used a hard
wholesale
money loan?
transactions. Right. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And so now that's also what we teach. Like if you know it's a deal, it's worth taking on some risk
Right.
because if buyers can't get in there, they're just like telling us, okay, well, it's gonna be super low ball. And I'm like, no, I see the ARV, I know it's worth this. So that's why I'll get to how much we made on that one.
Right.
But we once we bought it, they squatted for about 3 weeks,
Uh-huh.
not answering our calls. So we get boots on the ground realtor to go there and put pressure on them, saying like, this is our property. like, they're squatting, so they have laws and rights, and it's tough because it's like you put in this risk, and they could stay there and just ruin the whole thing for you. um
Yeah.
Eventually they got out. We paid for self-storage, we paid for a hotel to encourage them to get out. We also gave them a cash advance to get out. They took the money, lied, this, all this drama, but this
Wow.
is wholesaling. You like, you're here to solve a problem. So
Mhm.
we would just say, like, it'd be nice for you guys to stay at a hotel instead of this poop house. It smells like smoke, it's fire damage, and it smells like, so we had someone come in to remove all the junk, and he had this contractor had his guys, two guys out of four, quit on the spot because of the terrible conditions for them to breathe in the property. So just so you guys know, it's like the worse the property, the better it is for an investor, right? So because you're here to solve that problem. So that's what happened. They removed all the junk out, and then we put it on off market, dispoed it. We had a lot of interest in it, and in 7 days we found a buyer, and then in 7 days they closed on it, and we made a spread of 150, 158. So
158,000
yeah, yeah.
on one deal.
On one deal,
Dang,
yeah, yeah,
that's amazing. That's great.
yeah. All
But it
glory to
took a
God.
lot of work. Yeah, 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 for sure.
You have no idea how many days, like, we just had to ask God for patience because we wanted to get the police involved, get these people out of the house. They didn't want to give us a deal at the right number. The girlfriend wanted to take control of the transaction. We paid the neighbor referral fee for, she brought the deal. So it's like, it's crazy how real estate works. Sometimes people see your brand, they see the reviews, and they're like, okay, this, I know someone that needs your help, so I'm going to connect you to. And that's the biggest deal we've done, but that's not the biggest deal that we've missed out on. So we've lost deals in 2023, like a lake house in Atlanta, and the spread, the wholesaler, they made 300K on that fire damage, right? So just so everyone knows, like you're, if you're at the right place, right time to solve someone's problem, the sky's the limits in terms of how much you can make.
No,
I,
that's
I
amazing.
know,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
was still thinking about that point, but
Yeah.
no, that's great. And how many months from the first contact with the neighbor till actually closing the deal was that with that Seattle property?
It was about 4 months.
4 months, 4 months in, but it paid, it paid off. And so you were all in maybe, with the demo, I mean, with taking trash out, how much were you all in, you think,
About
with landing fees?
42,000, 42,
140,
46,000. Yeah.
200 per se, and then you sold it for close to.
It was like we sold it for like 270.
Okay, okay. And how do you all, what's your main way to dispo? Like, for example, that property,
Yeah.
um, do you just find local cash buyers? How do you all usually dispo?
So our guy, Sean, he's a head of disposition. He's an expert. So the main method is Facebook. For some reason, these Facebook groups work. But here's the key and here's the secret. You got to vet these guys. How do you vet them? If they're really a buyer, show us one of your flips. Show us your recent flip. What LLC do you buy in? And then you check what county record it matches. Okay, right? And then they go to the property, and you give them that 14 days to close. If they say they need 30 days, likely trying to assign it, right? It might, it could be a cash buyer that needs 30 days, but we always go with who can close faster, right? We just want to be done with the property so we can reinvest in marketing and just scale.
Right. No, no,
So
that's
Facebook
important.
groups have been killing it. We've only used Facebook groups.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And honestly, like finding cash buys for Facebook group has generated the highest assignment fees for me
Yeah.
too. It's
Yeah.
crazy because like pulled lists, did all these different things, send out emails, but yeah, I noticed that Facebook groups, it's just like a different crop of cash buyers, and
Yeah.
even putting it on marketplace sometimes, and then cash buyers finding it through
Yep.
that method too works. But yeah, I do. I know we're running out of time, but I
Yep.
just want to ask you this final question, for beginners, let's say they haven't gotten their first deal, or maybe they're trying to get more consistent with their deals. Like, what are your advice for them to, going over that hump? Your motivation that you can give them right now.
Okay. I think that's a good question. I think I would suggest they do what I did, which is find someone they can resonate with. So if you do have a full-time job, if you got kids, if you're married, and like someone like me who wants to be intentional, I don't want to just be like working all the time. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my kids. Um, I also like my job, so that's why I'm still doing it until I can't do it anymore. If that resonates with you, just like follow the journey. So on those hard days, you have some motivation because we're not getting a deal every day. And there's days where we lose transactions, even sellers back out, ghost, they go with someone else, all these headaches, but we're staying at it because we know it works, right? This is the business where we can help truly help people and make a ton of money in between. And the second thing would be it hustle, like do Uber, do something and pull up a little cash to skip trace, to put into marketing, figure out one marketing channel and stick with it. So remember, the first year I did SEO, I was very like shiny object, cold calling, hire a VA, pull a list. Oh, that's so much cheaper. I could quickly try that.
Mhm.
No, that just created distraction for my mind. I cut it out, focus on one marketing channel. And then one way we're trying to get back to any new beginners is we're starting this community, and it's still in the works of the like final idea, but we want to pull the fire damage list, skip trace it, give these guys training, free training from all these other guys online that show cold calling, right? And they learn how to cold call and just call this list. If you
Mm,
get a seller interested, you can either close a deal or we can help you close a deal. And we have buyers ready in our markets that are ready to buy fire damage properties. And
mm,
I truly believe that's the fastest way for someone beginning to get their first deal, that first lump of cash to build their business, or they might build a business around working with us. We know some people that are just disposition companies, they just work with wholesalers, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
that's a real business model too. So you could partner with other hustlers in the industry. But the first step I would suggest is getting serious and like picking one niche, one space, pre foreclosure, fire damage, code violations, pick one marketing channel and just study that everything you can on YouTube and follow very few people who will inspire you on those hard days to not give up. Like that's why I really like your channel. It's very like raw, especially when you just speak about like where you're at with a certain deal. You're like, I haven't found the buyer yet, but hopefully next week. I'm like, yeah, that's literally how it is. It's like
Mhm.
you haven't found the buyer, hang in there. They might come 2 weeks from now. They're gonna come. And if you need to renegotiate, just they'll help you justify why you need to renegotiate, and it's a win. I don't know, it's a win-win. You help the seller, you help the buyer, you make some money in between, and you can just change your family's trajectory for the better.
No, no, no. Thanks, yeah, for sharing all that. I think that will help a lot of people, especially finding someone they can relate to and resonate with. It may not be me, but it may be someone like in your situation with a full-time job, with children and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think that's really key. And just, going through the process, like understanding it's not gonna
Yep.
always be, perfect, right? You are even further down your journey, you're still going to deal with sellers who ghost you, and things of that nature. So yeah, um, that's important. And I know that I said that was the last question, but I'm just curious now,
Okay.
um, so with fire damage properties, what are a few things people need to know when dealing with fire damage properties? Because I know a lot of people are watching and probably interested in dealing with fire damage properties because I know there's things with insurance and things of that nature, but
Yeah.
what are like some things they should know with
Yeah,
dealing?
that's a really good question. So here's what I'll say. So any niche you go into, if you look at it as like you're trying to create this business around the whole niche, you want to, so fire damage per se, you the seller will have to deal with their insurance company if they had homeowners insurance because they have a mortgage. A mortgage requires you to have homeowners insurance. So they'll have to deal with the mortgage company and the insurance company. So what you want to know is the claim settled or is it still ongoing? If it's still ongoing, you get the seller to tell them, hey, I want to just cash out my policy and pay the difference. So that insurance check is written out to the mortgage company and the seller. The mortgage company takes first position on the title. So they, if anything happens to the house, they get their money first. So typically the check sometimes will be just enough to pay off the mortgage. And then your cash offer is what will go in the seller's pocket. So if you just make sure that you tell them like you can talk to the insurance company, you get a third party authorization. It's very detailed, but we'll go into this in the channel. There's not really much. I won't say there's much to know. It's like they just deal with the insurance and the mortgage, and you just want to make sure you're communicating with each party to let them know this seller wants to sell the property. So you need to like get the file ready for you to close off their name on your books. And the title company typically helps with all this, and they can reach out to us if they have to deal with fire damage. But even in pre-foreclosure, you deal with the courthouse, you deal with the bank, right? So if you know all these things because you study your niche, that's really how you win. Because some
Mm,
investors have no idea, oh, the city's involved, oh, the courthouse is involved. But because we believe in niche wholesaling, when you study your niche, you just get ahead because you have so much more to offer the seller. And they're like, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna go with him.
mhm. Yeah, no, and yeah, like you said, niche down and research, study your niche.
Yeah.
That's good advice. And by the way, if you all are interested, all their socials are down below. And this is now the very last question for sure. So
Okay.
2022, I know you say you did 250,000.
Yep.
What was your revenue for 2023? We just ended.
Yeah. 2023's revenue was a little over 1 million.
Okay.
And glory to God,
Yeah.
because I couldn't do it without him. Because there's way more days that are so mentally difficult, like to stay the course, than there are these like big like wins. And even making this kind of money now, it's not like the sky's part and my life is perfect. It's like, okay, well, back to the grind. I
Mhm.
have there's sellers that have real problems that I can help solve, and my family, and like now I'm starting to understand the game of real estate, of money, so it's not a game. If you really like build this business around specializing in something, you see your value and your place in the world to like really make a difference in your like everyone's life right around you. So that revenue, thank God. But this year we have like big plans, and the plans this year are really focused on giving back and helping people get their first deal, get their first fire damage deal, build a brand, niche down. Obviously, you can spread, you can do whatever you want, but we will teach specifically on building a brand, a niche brand in your state. And then you get these referral deals, and you get deals left and right, center, everything, because you're the specialist in the space that buys houses, and you make a ton of money in between.
All right. Yeah, no, that's important to put some perspectives, behind the numbers, because a lot of people just concentrate on a number, but like niching down, and giving back to the community, like what you all are trying to do. But once again, you all, thanks for watching. Follow Joel and his companies and all his socials down below. And yeah, reach out if you all have any questions. Comment down below if you have any questions. All right. Talk to you all later.
Peace.